Hi, friends. I'm Deneen. I'm the host of this show, The Space in Between. I'm a mom, I'm an attorney, I'm an author, and I'm also a widow. We're going to get into some really important stuff today, and I'm really grateful that you're here and you're going to be sitting with us on The Space in Between. So today we are at the Engine Room in Broad Ripple, and I am so excited. This, I think, is a year in the making of me me too, but of me trying to meet with the woman sitting across from me in Broad Ripple. I want to welcome Dawn. She's our guest today, Dawn McCord. She's a fiercely loyal mom who's walked through one of the hardest journeys a parent can face, adolescent addiction. During the pandemic, she wrote Chasing Carson, a raw and powerful memoir about her family's experience. Since then, she's become a family recovery life coach. Did I say that right?
Yes, absolutely.
And is now producing a documentary exploring the truth about wilderness therapy. Is there something you might want to add to my introduction beyond the titles and roles? And it's okay if I did a good job.
No, you did great.
Right.
No, that's great. And actually, when you just, the first introduction, I'm like, and looking at you, because a lot of times I'll do podcasts and they're on, Zoom or whatever. But being in person and you and I have been in conversation for so long, I'm like, I almost teared up.
Oh.
Like when you brought that up, I was like, oh yeah, it was hard. Like,
it's like, wait a second, I remember that was hard, and I get that. So, well, again, glad to have you.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So, can you take us back to the moment when you first realized your family was, quote unquote, chasing Carson, which is the title of her book?
Mm-hmm.
What was shifting under your feet?
Well, what was shifting under my feet was that for both my husband and I, we were wondering, adolescent, teenage experimentation was starting to get a little nutso, like just his boldness for, I'd smell weed in the house or he'd go missing and so on and so forth. And he was 15, So, but the real turning point was when we had just come home. I took him on his 16th birthday trip, which was a little late, to visit my best friend in England. And we were already, he was having, just
Episodes?
Rebellion.
Yeah.
And I figured I couldn't leave him. He shouldn't have gone to England with me. He should have stayed home. But my other son was on a missions trip. And my husband had to work. So him being by himself all day, so that wasn't going to happen. So it's the beginning of his sophomore year. And it's like 1 week into the school year. And
I remember that from the book.
Yeah. And we go to go to lunch, and with my parents so that the boys can tell them what, their summer was like, Jackson being in Haiti and Carson being in England with me. And he was just a mess. And he was drooling on the floor at the local restaurant around here. And I'm like, something is up. We got to go. Sorry, Dad. And then it ended up that him and some friends said, let's, pool our money and we're going to buy some Xanax, which are the Xanax bars, street Xanax.
I was going to ask you about that because in the book you talk about Xan bars, and I only know Xanax as an anti-anxiety medication.
Right. So Xan bars are the street term for Xanax, that it's processed. I picture them because the way they create them. I mean, Lord only knows what other substances are in there. It's not definitely prescribed. Who knows? But it looks like Pez. Like if you break them off, that's how I envision them. And then like if you had in a good old fashioned Pez container kind of thing.
Okay.
So Lord only knows what the potency is, but he's the kid that said, sure, I'll go buy that. Pooled the money, and he couldn't wait for his friends, so he took one. And then the way Xanax works, it kind of gives you that blackout. And once you, well, especially for him, it worked this way. He always wanted to keep the high going. So he took them all. So he took between 6 and 8 Xan bars and was high for over 48 hours. And that's when the chasing really began. We all chase teenagers, but then this was, full-fledged run.
Well, that's what I was about to say, or ask. You've said your sons do what most teens do, but Carson's path turned sharply.
Yes.
And you just described part of that. What was it like navigating those early forks in the road? I detect from the book a sense of hope that this was just an episode. And then all of a sudden, I don't want to give my view, but I saw a moment where you were like, no, this kid needs to be.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, you just gave me the chills.
Sorry. But when you were early navigating, did you know in London, for example, you're like, he shouldn't have went. You just said that before, but we couldn't leave him alone. Did you?
Well, it was that, and I say that in the book too. We're still in that throes before the Xanax situation of, is this teenage experimentation? Is this normal boy activity? I'm an only child, and a girl. My husband's one of 4 boys, and he is kind of chill. So he wasn't too upset. I'm more the disciplinarian. So I thought, well, like when we went to England, kids are allowed to drink earlier. That culture is just different there. So I allowed him to drink there too, thinking that I could teach him how to do it responsibly. And, or have my friends help me teach him responsibly.
For him to like view it and maybe absorb that just by watching, oh, mom's out with friends. She's not going to have 12 beer or 12.
Well, no, I let him drink.
Okay.
That's how it was. I don't even drink. I quit drinking at 18.
Okay.
So when I quit drinking and drugging.
I do remember that now from the book. Okay.
Grew up with an alcoholic father who's passed on now. And though functional, that was what was different too, is that Carson, he was, 0 to 60. He wasn't functional. It just quickly went non-functional.
I can relate to that in a sense. When I think of Carson's age, so my late brother, he's no longer with us, and not for this reason. Okay. It was a heart attack later on, but early on, his drinking was never just a couple of drinks. We do have alcoholism in our family, but my mom was very controlled. So she would come home from work and it was 1 vodka soda and maybe a second one. That was it. But it was almost every night. It was 1 vodka soda. And my dad would drink sometimes and sometimes not. But my mom's father was I would call it a raging alcoholic, ruining Christmas at times. I don't know if I didn't get that sense from your book about your dad or people in your family, but we did have that rager sort of.
It depends on what my dad was drinking. He was very disciplined, military, German background. He, worked hard and played hard. And, but through the years, it did change his personality. When you're in active addiction, it does play a part on your personality, even though you might not wake up in the morning, drinking from morning till night until you pass out. But it's still, active addiction it can be just a couple drinks every single day.
And perhaps maybe I did see that. But what struck me when you mentioned Carson and taking all of it at once, when it was the original plan was, let's test it out with friends.
Right.
My brother, after only drinking, I believe, for a very short time, would find a way to buy an entire case of beer and have it in his room, usually behind his bed.
Teenager?
Teenager. Yeah. I think 15, 16. And I didn't understand that. Like, I didn't even drink at that age yet, but I didn't understand why the case. But in reading Carson's story, I understand now because I'm a grown up, but in reading Carson's story, I was reflected back to when I was a couple of years younger than him, watching him. Why do you need an entire case? He would party with friends too, but there would be times he would buy a case for himself of beer. And I just thought, that sounds insane, even at that early age. So I'm not saying Carson's insane. I'm just saying I could see that.
It's not. It's addiction's insane.
Yeah.
That's what, it's insidious. And you don't know how it's going to affect you until you try it.
Right?
Yeah. So you don't know if it's going to take you, 8 to 10 years, or it's going to take you 15 months, because it's all about biology and physiology and where it lives in the middle brain. And we have alcoholism. So my dad, being functional, provided well for the family, so on and so forth. Well, my husband's dad was not functional. I mean, it was like an allergic reaction. One led to a bender. And that's the pattern we saw with Carson, is that each time he experimented, because he really liked that feeling and he wanted to keep that feeling going, it would turn into a pattern where he would have time of abstinence, and then he would go on a bender, like a 3-week bender, where he would miss school, and we were chasing him. It'd end up in a crisis, which then led to rehab. And then then would go again, pattern would go again, until we finally, his overdose. Then no more chasing. We have to get him out of here. So.
Right. And that's why you're here today, the book and the documentary. So thanks for sharing that. So your book, Chasing Carson, was written during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And we all know, most of us have our own ideas about COVID. It was a little different for me in New York City than I'm sure it was here in Indiana.
I bet.
But it was horrific in that there was a lot of isolation.
Mm-hmm.
My question then is, what was that experience, that global uncertainty? How did that sort of come out in the story, or how do you think that affected putting your family story on paper during that season of, I call it an isolation. I know other people maybe had less isolation if they weren't in the heart of it in New York, but
Right.
What do you think writing during that time added or didn't add? Like, maybe you're like, it didn't make any difference to me, Deneen. Like, the story is the story.
It just gave me time, because I couldn't work. I was a hairdresser, and which I'm retired from now. And
I know Christy's very upset about that, by the way.
I'm so sorry.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Shout out to Christy Gaynor yet again. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm so sorry about that. It's just my calling, my call to do something else. That one thing is so I'm quite faithful, and so my higher power is God, and He just laid it on my heart all this time of chasing Carson to take pictures, take videos, and I just remembered scenarios like that happened that were like they happened yesterday. And when I couldn't work, I didn't work for 9 weeks. I mean, I finally went back, even when they said, well, you know what, hairdressers, you need to wait a couple more weeks. And I went, forget this, I need to work. So I just spent that time really just hammering it out. And I had an idea. And all I could say is the blessing for us is that I had time. I had time to put that pen to paper and to tell our story, if for nothing else, just for my parents or for our immediate family, because I stopped sharing how bad it was. One, because I couldn't battle my parents parenting me while I'm chasing, my husband and I are chasing Carson. So, and also we had another child too, who was at college, and he was going through his own ish, know? So,
yes.
Yeah.
And there was a point in the book where you discussed Jackson and a friend potentially using heroin. And as a mom reading that, my focus has always been on my daughter for the crazy escapades. My son maybe still is a baseball player. He played last year at IU as a grad student, but prior to that at Gettysburg and high school and then middle school. So the baseball, I think, always sort of leveled him out.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he got to Gettysburg, between the fraternity and the coach, there was so much asked of him that he did party, but it was to be able to do the weightlifting sessions and whatever. It always felt like, I don't know, I'm using my hand right now, but like an even keel.
It's kind of like that functional.
It kept him functional. And I think during my husband's illness as well. my daughter is the experimenter. She's the one that has no fear for her physical safety, has been out on a limb and almost fell at least 5 or 6 times. And so when you, as a mom, hearing you talk right about Jackson's night with his friend, it really hurt me because I'm like, I'm used to chasing Gray in a sense. It's a little different than with Carson, and the show is about you, not necessarily my family dynamic, but I'm used to sort of looking out for her, being extra worried, chasing her.
So you chase her, yeah. There's just, sometimes there's one kid in a family, and some families look out and don't have to chase any of them, but one kid that just is more of a risk taker.
That's
fearless.
That's exactly it. And even when I thought everything was calm, my friends were laughing because her friend is getting her pilot license. And this is a kid I've known since 6th grade. And she just said to me, don't look for me on the 20th through the 21st because Courtney's getting a plane and flying into Bloomington. And then we're flying back to Purdue. And then we're going to party. And then Courtney's flying me back. And I was like almost on the floor.
Yeah.
So like, even though when things are calm, she'll find a way to up the ante. But getting back to the book, reading that part made me so upset for you as a mom. All of it, obviously, as a mom, we could feel it. But it would be like if I'm in the throes of an episode with Gray and my son Cole, who I consider my steady one, came home with that same scenario or something similar. I think for me, there's been so many hard times where I don't give up. That might be a night that I'm like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm out. So I don't know, like you didn't write that here, but I want, and I didn't even put it down as a question, but it was in my mind and you brought it up just by bringing something up. What do you think when you think about that specific night? What do you see what I'm feeling about it? Do you you're chasing Carson and then Jackson has an episode. His friend has a very dangerous,
in our household,
in your house. I just feel like that's the night I go, okay, God, you know what? Like, take me out. I'm done.
Yeah.
Because did it shock you as much as it shocked me as a reader or?
Yeah. Well, especially with Jackson, when he came, I think he was just his first time home from school. He was freshman at Purdue and I tell him, no, come home. We're having family dinner. And he walks through and goes in to get a drink because we're sitting outside and he projectile vomits all over, the
That
porch.
was the first clue.
Yeah.
But then later on with his friend, like
that later
I
on
think
that
you
night.
still had hope when he just vomited. Like, I hope it's just right.
Yes.
I don't want to put words in your mouth, but then I think when his friend, I was like, I almost closed the book. I was like, I can't do this with her.
I know.
I can't do this. And like I said, I've been through some ish in my life.
Yes.
And, but
I was like, Carson was asleep. He was going to go to school. So Carson was asleep. He comes out and he's at least not high. And I was more like, am I allowed to swear on here?
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
God knows I swear like a sailor, but God,
I say that
literally,
a lot too. I say
God,
that too. Yes.
I swear like a sailor. But that's one thing is sometimes this is gritty. Addiction is gritty and drugs today are since the opiate crisis, they're so pervasive. And our young kids, it's not something that we might stumble upon in our 20s. Kids can be 15 years old and find it and get it.
Yeah.
I'm like, and you know what? At that time, when it was Jackson's friend that was overdosing on our couch, I really didn't think that Jackson was partaking in that. But I really now know he did. Like, because
Maybe
it was always going to be, because it was heroin.
Right.
And I was like, well, my kids know better. Like,
Right.
Carson hadn't gotten to that point yet. And I'm like, my kids know better. But then I'm like, no, I was just fooling myself.
Yeah, like they'll drink, but they're not going to do heroin.
They're going to smoke pot.
Right. Or they're going to smoke or vape, but they're not going to do heroin. And then that's why I'm saying as a mom, that would be almost a checkout time for me where I'd be like, I can't do this. Like my steady one is now on heroin. Like I know that didn't occur to you and maybe that's protective of God.
Yeah.
that you were not necessarily knowing at that moment it was Jackson too, and just focused on his friend. Because I just think it's almost too much in one time span. That's all.
Yeah.
That's what I guess.
Yeah.
And it's my own, I don't want to keep projecting my own feelings, but that's what I felt. And I did have to put the book down for probably 2 weeks after that night. And then I came back to it.
I've had other people say that too.
That
Yes.
night as well?
Well, I don't think it maybe in that spot, but it's just a lot. Like
certain moments.
Just certain moments. It's just a lot.
And I just want to say for us two women, we have a lot.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot going on. So if you think it's a lot for you, I'm saying to you, I had to put the book down, but there are people in my life that at times have to put the book of my life down.
Yes.
But if you think it's a lot for you, think of what it's like for the people living, whether it's a long-term illness that destabilizes everything you know in your family and your kids are it is a lot. It's a lot when your kid is addicted and you're going through that. But our society with the whole, it's a lot. Think about the people that they're going through it. And it just is, it's astounding to me how many people are living things that, like, I'm reading your life. And if you read my life, you might be like, yeah, I got to put this book down. But I'm reading your life and I'm like, I need a break from this for a second. And I wonder, just in general, our society, we're quick to go, yeah, that's a lot. You're so strong. But like, no one chooses. We don't go, hey, we want to be strong. Give us the toughest battle, right?
Right.
So,
No.
And that may be another show about faith. And I question mine a lot, and I have a lot of walks that I have to do through it. But okay, so thank you for answering that as well. When you think about the space in between the show you're on today, thank you. I'm sure you can think of some moments when you went from hairdresser mom to mom of an addict, right? It kind of is a bridge. I went from a healthy family. I call myself a pre-widow during that time because I was told very quickly there was no treatment, no cure. And then almost widow, and then widow. And it was a slower transition for me, but I know what my life was like before that title came at me hard. So when you think of yourself, hairdresser, wife, mom, to mom of an addict, I'm curious, what emotions surfaced for you in the writing when you realized that bridge had been crossed? And then a secondary question, was it healing, re-traumatizing, or liberating, maybe all of the above, to write about that story? And it's what I'm trying to ask is, when did you know you had bridged that in-between space? So I'm saying a lot, and you transition to something different. So realizing it, if I can go back, because I might have confused you, is it re-traumatizing to write about it, or is it healing to write about? Like, now you've made that bridge. You're the mom of an addict. I wonder if you feel like you will be that way forever, because I have heard addicts say they're an addict forever. They're always in recovery. And you could add to that. I know very little about this, but I know you know a lot. But when you've crossed the bridge, you've written about it, what do you think about your space in between? Or what do you think about the new moniker as you put it on to write?
So I would say it was cathartic to write it. And it wasn't re-traumatizing. However, I have read bits and pieces since I've done all my proofing. But I haven't read it from front to back since I did all my editing and my copywriting and my proofing. I've read pieces of it because, like, if I was on a show or something like that, and I know the stories, because, but that's what's kind of good, is that your memory can get a little fuzzy, which I think helps with the trauma of it.
100%.
Yeah.
I believe that's a gift.
That is a gift.
Because don't they say about childbirth that if you remembered, you would never have your second?
Right.
So it's probably the same thing.
Right. So I know I need to read it probably a couple times before the documentary comes out, because if it shows more of our story in the documentary, that's going to be really hard. You know, when you're putting it, then I'm going to be reliving it. So, yeah. The good thing is with being a coach now, and there's that in between, and I, worked for 2+ years for the Recovery Center, and I ran parent support groups and family support groups, and I got to talk about it a lot in a sense, that helps. So processing as much as you can. So like talking like this, it does help. Some of my friends and my pastor friends are like, you don't have to keep living this over and over and over again. Like it's like the trauma. And I said, I do. And I appreciate the care there. And I understand. And I won't, because I follow what God is telling me. So I'm going to be like Forrest Gump, and I'm going to run and do what he tells me, follow this. And then when he tells me to stop, I'll go do something else. I'll run a different direction. Who knows? But right now it's led to this. So that's part of the in between. I also want to say about the space in between, is what was the hardest part is the in between episodes. So episodes of him being sober, and we're going, like, maybe we've gotten through this, to where, oh no, it's ramping up again. Also the time when he's 30, he's not coming home, and we have to find another place for him, and then we have to transport him to another place, and that space in between, thinking that he's going to just leave or run or not continue on with this treatment, and he's going to be homeless. And what if he chooses that? It's the space in between. I kept just waiting for the next, okay, we made it through that way. We made it through that part. Okay, I got him finally back into rehab. Okay, we just dropped him off at Wilderness. All these different places. And then moving him from Wilderness to his sober living program before, right before COVID lockdown. I could probably breathe. I'm like, it was COVID lockdown, and he is, 1,300 miles away. I'm like, I can breathe,
Because you felt like you had gotten to a certain point and he was safe.
Safe. Yeah.
I say that in quotes, guys, air quotes,
yes.
Because none of us is ever guaranteed safety.
Right. At any time he could have walked away from there, and he's 1,300 miles away. So you still, until you get some time under your belt where you can feel comfortable. And I've had to do my own work as well, of processing through it and being okay with the space in between. I have to say that. You have to be okay with the space in between. And that could be sitting in uncomfortableness.
I believe it is a lot of the time.
Yeah.
A lot of the time. So thank you for that. Were there any stories or moments, whether in between or during, that you almost didn't include in the book? And what made you decide to tell them anyway?
So there was one that I wish I would have included, but my editor said, is it relevant? And I'm like, obviously, maybe she's not really, or he, or the team, actually, because I had a publishing company, but I'm like, really? So it was this one, it's one of my favorite songs. It's from, oh my gosh, the Christian band, God Only Knows. It's called God Only Knows.
Oh
my goodness. Help me. Oh my God.
I know, I'm thinking right now. So God only knows what I've been through. Yeah.
For King and Country.
Okay. I'm like, I can't think of it.
Sorry, guys, because I follow you. They came and spoke at church, or it must have been on Zoom during COVID or something like that. But oh my goodness, yes, they're one of my favorite bands. But I just wrote the whole lyrics, asked for permission, and then my copywriter or whatever said, do you really need it? And I'm like, I should have just left it in there.
So still now you feel like it should be, okay. Mm-hmm. Well, I wonder, like, maybe a supplement at some point.
Maybe a supplement.
Because law schools used to add stuff in the front of the book instead of reprinting the whole book. So they would be like, you have to buy the supplement for, back then, $15, $10, and then they would put the new law in the front. sometimes to save money in between texts. So
there, and I have to say, so you alluded to it. So you have read in between the lines about Jackson. I have left Jackson out as much as possible, except for where he's helped with Carson, because he's got his own story and his own journey. And when he's ready to speak it, then
that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, those are the parts that I did not elaborate on, but you read between the lines.
Yeah, that's fair. Thank you. How did your relationship with Carson evolve as you were writing the book, or did it? Or was it already, I know you had already brought him to sober living. I think that's when you came back and started writing.
Mm-hmm.
But how did your relationship evolve at all, if at all, during the book? And if it didn't, if it had already gotten to a certain point, that's fine too.
Yeah. No, because he's a mama's boy. And I think that was half the battle during adolescence, is trying to separate from me. And I don't want to be a mama's boy, but now because he's had plenty of therapy, he's a full-fledged mama's boy kind of thing. We're very close.
I love that.
But to the point where he's like, Mom, it's time for you and Dad to move out here. And this was like right when he was still in sober living. And I said, oh no, Carson, not until you're probably 30 should we be within 100 miles of each other, because it's not good for me and it's not good for you. We become enmeshed. And he laughed. He knew it because he had been through the therapy of it all.
Wow.
So he, okay, I lost my train of thought.
Sorry.
So tell me.
He asked you to move out and you were like, but I was asking you, how did your relationship evolve?
Right. And so
you were writing.
Okay. So he didn't know I was writing it.
Okay.
Until we went out to visit him for the first time, which was, he'd been in sober living for 6 months. And so we moved him in February, and we got there in middle of August. And I brought him the manuscript, what I had so far. And I thought, he's 19 years old. He's not going to read it. I said, I need you, or I want you to read this, because this is, I've written our story, but it's your story. And so I need, if you approve it, I want to continue on. And so it probably took him about a month, but he stayed up all night and read it, and he approved it. And then he later came home at Christmas time. So, yeah. And
so from August to Christmas.
He came home for like 2 days at Christmas time. He was still in programming in sober living, and he wrote his piece of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Thank you.
You're welcome.
As you know a little bit about me, I'm a widow.
Yes.
And my husband was sick for many years. It was a grueling marathon of, it only gets worse from here.
Mm-hmm.
The doctors told me the day that he was diagnosed, this will be his best day. There is no treatment. There is no cure. It's very different from the cancer world, where I spent a lot of time, and possibly at the addiction world, where there's a fight. We can do this. We can put them here. We can whatever. So, and it was like, it only gets worse from here and it ends in death. So it doesn't get any better until it gets far, far worse. And then it gets to the absolute rock bottom. My mantra during those times, because there were times the anxiety nearly killed me. My daughter was 7 when my husband was diagnosed. On repeat was, all is well. Everything's okay. It's going to be okay. And that was something I said to myself on repeat from the moment my eyes opened in the morning, because there were some mornings I didn't want my eyes to open. I just really was exhausted, and not exhausted in the sense that you probably get it.
Oh, yeah.
Just too much of all of it.
It's just too much. Yeah.
And you mentioned using the word okay as a coping mechanism. Can you share more about, I just shared a little bit about what my practice looked like. Everything's okay. It's going to be okay. All is well. And it was sort of on repeat. Can you share more about what that looked like for you in practice? Okay. You do a little bit in our pre-interview. You sort of said, when something happens, I say okay. But especially during a moment of crisis, how does okay help you?
And I don't know where it ended up coming from, except for one of my dear friends. She got blindsided with a divorce. And at the same time, she was recovering from ACL surgery. And I brought her lunch and we're laying in bed and while she's icing. And she was still just heartbroken and just broken. And it came to me to say, you know what? Okay. We can't, I said, how about we just start with, okay, this has happened. Okay, how am I going to move forward? Okay, I can't make him want to be with me. Okay. And then that just started with me too. When we first started chasing Carson, or both boys as teenagers, I would fly off the handle and thinking that discipline, berating them would get them to stop. Okay, Mom, I'm going to stop, sneaking out of the house and all that. And then as it got worse, and I'm like, I needed something to keep me from flying off the handle and flooding and, that fight, flight, freeze thing.
Yes.
So it just was okay. And then I found that if I said okay and sat down, I could take a deep breath and go, okay, this is the situation at hand. How are we going to get through this? I've got to remain calm for myself, for my husband, because if not, everybody just gets out of control.
Tilt-a-wheel.
It's a tilt-a-wheel.
Yeah.
And I now coach on that and say, okay, so it's like, and then Mel Robbins.
That was my next.
I was going to say that she comes out this year with
Let Them.
And I'm like, okay.
So I just want to deviate for a second.
Yeah.
I love and hate Mel Robbins. And I want to explain why. When I was at a very low point with my husband where the paralysis, he wasn't paralyzed technically, but his disease is very similar to ALS mixed with Parkinson's. So paralysis sets in and you lose. First, it's just your arm, but you can still do this. Then you can't do your hands anymore. Then you can't even lift. It's paralyzed. And my kids were it was 2 years in, they were really losing their patience with all of it, didn't fully understand. Her voice came on Instagram before I ever saw her face or knew who she was. And it was, no one's coming. No one's coming to save you. Do you remember that meme? And it was like, you got to turn off the TV. No one's going to turn off the TV. You've got to get yourself up. No one's coming. And I remember, who is this woman? I dislike her so much because the last thing I want to hear when I'm so utterly alone and broken is no one's coming.
Yeah.
And I just had to share, that's my love-hate with Mel Robbins, because Let Them, and I'm going to get into my next question, is a great way to go forward. But the no one's coming, I still get triggered when I hear it.
Yeah, because you're feeling so alone. Yeah, so that must have been with her first book or something about how she was trying to figure out possibly how to get out of bed and what the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 or something like that.
I think it was related to that. But initially, all I heard, I didn't even see her face yet. It was like people were using it over text on Instagram, and it was like, no one's coming. No one's coming. And I was like, stop, woman, whoever you are.
I know.
Now I know who she is. But so we've talked about Mel Robbins right here, and the Let Them theory. And of course, no one's coming. Let's not go into that. And using radical acceptance.
Yes.
How do you think those ideas intersect with the experience of parenting through addiction? The radical acceptance, the Let Them, if you like, no one's coming, can't stand that one. But how do you think?
Well, he was a minor until he turned 18. And if Let Them would have come out, you can't. So that's one of the biggest things is I could sever my relationship with my father when he acted being a butt. In fact, I've uninvited him to Thanksgiving dinners one time because he was just on a terror. And I'm like, yeah, no.
Right.
I just can't.
But with a kid.
With a kid, you can't do it. And so when I could shut myself off, I can just go, nope, not going to do that. I don't do addiction. Till you have a kid that has it. And you can't. I tried to channel that. I don't care. I tried to channel that disconnection just so I can look at it, from a very, logical standpoint,
You can't.
it's unnatural. It's unnatural because, and then the radical acceptance is, I don't think that I've still done the radical acceptance. My radical acceptance is that he is an addict. He is in recovery. Anything could trigger him. It could happen again because that's what the disease of addiction is. That is my radical acceptance. I still can't say my radical acceptance is going to be that he could die. It's still not, I'm still not an option.
So I also have had this question posed to me as a parent of, again, my daughter who at times takes chances. And I've had many, another friend, coworker, family member say, just let her and let her experience the consequences. And I'm like, but when it comes to what she might be doing, the consequence could be she's not alive tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And it could be like getting in a plane. Mm-hmm. It's not always drug related, but I mean, she does things on the edge of life. And I'm like, the consequences are she could be dead.
Yeah.
I'm not willing to let that happen. So this is a follow-up, like, how do we as moms, how do we navigate trying to set up consequences, because they do learn from consequences, but needing to protect them from something that could be final. We don't want their next mistake to be final. I know you don't from listening to you, and I don't. And that's a boundary I don't think I can set. And it sounds like you can't either.
No. So I just know how to do it healthy now. And I know, I would still be there and supportive, but I won't be able to. So I talk about it when I'm in support groups, the hamster wheel. I can't get on the hamster wheel anymore.
Okay.
So it's not an option for either of my children to die before me. It's just not an option. However, I know that there are things that are out of my control. And the older they get, they have their own free will. And that's where, do I have to accept that? Yes. But I can't dwell on it.
Right.
Because if I dwell on it, then I get myself, then I've just gone back on the hamster wheel of the chasing.
So there is a boundary that you set, but it's not the let them do whatever they want. It's I'm not going to get on the hamster wheel, but I'm going to find a healthy way to get involved. And that, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, I was just going to say, so the let them be whoever they want to be is great. But the boundary is let them doesn't mean you can be an ass to me. You can talk to me bad. You can treat anybody else bad. Like there's still integrity, So I, as your mom, will still say, do you think that's a good idea?
Right.
Or don't you think you might have, Carson, the risk taker, loves to, now that he's in Utah, climb and rappel and go into abandoned mines. And he went into an abandoned mine. I said, did you tell one of your roommates that you were here? No, but I wore my helmet. Oh. And he goes, and I've got my gun because in case I meet a mountain lion in this abandoned mine. And I'm like, okay, you no signal down there. What if you would have broken your shoulder? I'm like, I showed you 127 minutes, that movie, when you were probably 11. So serious. And he's like, Mom, that's just them. But I'm not going to sit there and go, oh, that was nice, honey, pumpkin butt.
Yeah.
No, I'm going to say, dude, come on.
No, I get that. Hey, just wanted to jump in and let you all know that the B3 Lab is happening March 13th in Indianapolis. Come join us. Details below in the show notes. So that probably leads us into you decided to change the way you approach life. You became a family life recovery coach.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? And can you help us understand the difference in sort of a very, I don't want to say quick, but just a really high level, not in the nitty gritty, between social worker, therapist, recovery coach?
Okay. Oh yeah, I could do that. So coaches are life coaches, any life coach, and a coach in general is about deepening the learning and forwarding the action. So we can identify that there might be a trauma. There's things in the past. That's when we refer to a therapist.
Okay.
So then the therapist would work with you, and then, the ideal thing was then you would see a coach. In relation to substance use disorder and addiction, I work with the family to be their loved one's best chance at recovery, and without being attached to the outcome, meaning whether they use, whether they don't use, whether they stay in recovery, whether they relapse, is, how to walk alongside them without, pulling them or pushing them, or helicoptering over them, but how to, and for your own self-care, does that look like walking alongside them, closely, or does it look like 1,300 miles away, like my son is to us? So for coaching, we are, the same thing with counselors, I think, and therapists would do the same thing, is that we try to pull it out of, what's best for you. We just we're trying to get a shift in mindset so that you can get out of the worry. You can get off the hamster wheel. You can love them, and you could be in a loving relationship with them. You can love them without being attached to what they do. Remember, free will.
So that's more of like what a coach does, kind of helps the family and perhaps even the addicted person themselves sort of see a way through. And sort of from your background, a way through.
Yes.
And you're going to share that.
Yes.
That's a little different, I guess, than a social worker, a therapist, or obviously a doctor. So.
Right. And so coaches do, especially recovery coaches, do share their lived experience. We have lived experience.
Okay.
So when it comes to substance use disorder, there's different life coaches for different things, but when it comes to addiction, we definitely share our life's journey. We know, we've walked it.
Got it.
So
no, I get it. That's amazing. So, and I appreciate the difference in the sort of trying to categorize each person. So
can I say, and you can, edit this however you want to edit it, but social workers a lot of times will help the person that is struggling with whatever, to get services, and to, we'll do that too. So then a psychotherapist is going to help you with trauma. And not that a social worker couldn't help you with trauma. It just depends on what their licensure is. And then coaches don't help with trauma. That's definitely for therapists. So I
appreciate the distinction. Yeah. Thank you. So I'm sure at times in your life as a recovery coach, you're coming across parents that are maybe in the exact position you were in back then. What do you most want them to hear? Maybe there's a parent listening right now that is right where you were at a certain point in this book, in your life, in the book of your life. What do you most want them to hear?
To not be fearful of letting them get the help that they need, and helping them, especially if they're a minor. You, as a parent, you have to, until they're 18, chase them, run interference, throw stop sticks out, speed bumps. You just have to. And it's going to be hard on you. Do your own work, do your own self-care, talk to a therapist. When they get to be 18, you need to kind of retreat a little bit. You could still be emotionally supportive, but depending on what their issue is, it might look like about having their own experience. They have to, if we always are there to rescue them or make it easier for them, it will undermine their abilities, because the human spirit is amazing and they can do it. So parents, let them, sorry, Mel, but let them, 18 and over, figure it out. You can give advice, but you know what? Ask them. Don't just give it. Ask them. Yes. Say, would you like my opinion right now? Or would you like my advice right now? Or would you like me just to listen right now?
I think that's key.
Mm-hmm.
I sometimes forget that. And I think that's a great thing that you just said. Would you like my advice? Would you like me to just listen? And you said a third thing.
Or would you like my opinion?
Opinion.
Yeah. What are you looking for right now when you're telling me all this?
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
It's parenting. When you've been parenting for 18 years, especially for a young adult, it's a habit.
Yes.
Okay. We're constantly parenting. So we have to learn how to be in recovery from parenting. So and one of the things I joke about is, hi, I'm Dawn and I'm a recovering parent. You know?
I like that.
So it's okay to
I like that.
Let go.
I like that.
Yeah.
Let go. What is something Carson has taught you that you didn't know about yourself before this? Maybe there's a whole bunch, but what is one thing you could share with us that you learned through him, through dealing with him, through...
I don't think that question's ever been posed to me. I would say it's trust. To trust that they are capable and they have the capacity. I know mental health and substance use is an issue and neurodiversity, but they are capable at whatever level they are.
And that's something he taught you.
Yeah. And it's not by saying, Mom, I'm capable, but by saying, I've got this. I can do this. And
showing you, I guess.
And showing me and looking for those little bits of, ooh, that was a good adulting thing, like.
I find myself looking for those too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, she just mentioned that she's not going to buy that ridiculous pair of boots because she wants to get this in 2 weeks. Like, oh my gosh, something went through. So yay. Yay for our kids growing up a little. So I think you've already answered that. So I'm going to move. This is sort of the mission on this show, The Space in Between, is to find light in dark moments and life's transitional moments. What does Dawn McCord find light in now?
I'm not going to lie. It took, since he's been gone, it took a while to get my joy back. It takes a while. So you have to keep putting one foot in front of the other. And then when you see it creep back in, you'll know it. And mine was when I found myself kind of swaying to some music. And I hadn't done that. I've just been kind of going through life because I know I need to keep putting one foot in front of the other. And I'm like, oh, I think I just got a little of my joy back.
That's amazing.
It is
amazing.
So my light now, and I know, again, I talked about my higher power. Back then, I just kept on saying, God, give me the strength because I can't, or just give me a billboard or give me something that shows me that he's going to be okay. And it was complete trust in that someone else, something bigger has got this and knows what's on the other side. And it kept me being Forrest Gump, keep going, keep going, keep going.
So would you say joy is finding that new aspect to your relationship with God? Joy is swaying to music. The light you find is in those things, or is there just light in knowing that it's going to be okay, or feeling right now, right? Because no one is guaranteed tomorrow that it's going to be okay today, that today is going to be okay. Well, and I don't want to paraphrase for you, but you said a few things. So
yeah, no, I love that. It kind of circles me back around. So I do one day at a time because I've always been, one of my strengths, but it's a fault too, is being a futuristic person. So I'm always thinking 3 months, 6 months ahead. And through him, that's another thing he taught me, is to live one day at a time. So yes, I have to understand that bills need to be paid and goals need to, blah, blah, blah. But live in the moment.
And that's where you find the light.
That's where I find the light. It's to live for today. Being present with you in this podcast right now. Instead of thinking about, oh yeah, I got another call at 3:30,
right. Or I've got to meet so-and-so tomorrow and I don't have the shoes for that dress. Or, right. Okay. Right. I really appreciate that, Dawn. So that's my conversation with Dawn. If you like the show, hit us up, follow us, DanineSig.com, give us a like or follow. Dawn's going to have a bunch of resources where you can find her book and the documentary, which I think we're going to have her back on for.
Yes, we do need to talk more about that.
Yes, we've run over time today. And we'll have the list in the show notes. But if you like the show, give us a like and a follow. Thanks so much for listening today. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Danine.
Thank you. Hi, friends. If you enjoy what you're listening to, please follow, rate, and share The Space in Between.